Yeah, sorry I'm not as good as you, Eric.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, September the 12th of 2019. This is a workshop meeting of Commissioners Court of Grimes County, Texas. It is 9 a.m. We are at the Grimes County Annex Building at 114 West Buffington Avenue, Anderson, Texas. This meeting has been called to order. Agenda item number 1. It's a workshop to review and discuss plans for existing and future county facilities and financing for the new Justice Center. That's not necessarily the declared name, but that's what I think most of us know what we're talking about with that. All right, couple of things that I'd like to hand out, commissioners, to you, just for clarity. I know you had a visual yesterday from the county attorney's office where Corey had done some layout of the proposed road. This is a document that I had Kat make previously that I'm working from. And I know we haven't made a decision on this yet, but I wanted to give, I'm sorry, there's one for Vanessa and there's one for Corey if they do come in. There's one for Mary if she wants it. Anyway, if you'll see where it says in the white block, the proposed access drive, the red rectangular that is there that goes to the new Grimes County area, or the Grimes County property out to Highway 90. The red is the 80-foot. The orange is, I believe, the 100-foot. We're proposing the 80-foot right-of-way. And then if you'll look on the document that you have, you'll see the white block kind of towards the top that has nothing in it. That's Jim Westmoreland's property. And then below that you'll see the yellow box that says north easement. That north easement is essentially the swap property or the traded property that if we go through with the agreement, that the red rectangle would be swapped for, looks like a little bit of a purple rectangle up on the north easement. And then we talked about the dimensions of that property yesterday and the values of those properties according to the district tax appraisal office. So we're not making a decision today, are we doing this or not. I wanted to provide this color copy to you that would hopefully give you a better understanding or a better view of what we're looking at. In conjunction with that, in second, Commissioner Cox had made the request, well, I'd like to get that in writing. So I responded to Lance Simmons because he had responded to me, but it was a verbal response to an email that I sent him. Sure, here's copies for the clerk, the attorney, and the auditor if they want it. You look at page 2. I had sent him the request, so you have to follow the email trail from the bottom going up to the top. And I told him what we were doing, that we were looking at a proposed drive on State Highway 90 to FM 149 intersection, and the question was, would this separation difference from our proposed access drive to this intersection be adequate to allow this new drive to be permitted by TxDOT? The distance is approximately 385 feet from center line to center line. Then if you'll look on page 1, in the middle, I said, Lance, you answered my question regarding site distance for an access to Highway 90 close to both entrances of FM 149 East and West in a verbal return call conversation. You said the request was totally within specs to do. Would you respond to that approval in response to this email? In other words, I have a commissioner that wants your response in writing. Thank you. He responded back to me last night. Hi, Judge Fouth. After looking at this potential access location, I see no reason why this driveway couldn't be approved. Thanks for asking this question early, and let me know if you need anything else. So, Commissioner Cox, I don't know if that's a formal enough writing for you at this point, but I did want to get that to you because that was a valid request. And Lance did respond to me in a timely session.
Thank you,
Or
Judge.
fashion on that. So again, we're not making a decision today, are we doing that? But it is part of our discussion today. Is that something we want to consider in the future? Because if we do indeed add that additional drive or that access out to 90, there is going to be a cost associated with that. I think the auditor, through her industrial engineering background, through $225,000 cost. I don't know if that's high, low, or right on the money, but it's a ballpark number to work with.
That's what it was on the bid thing as an additional thing
As an addition.
for the 1 to 149. Now, the 1 to 90, what they had quoted us once before was around 285, because it's a longer drive.
Okay.
25 is for the 149 and 285 was for.
Okay, well, let me take you back to the drawing then that I handed out. The blue box that's down there that has Grimes County in the yellow designation, that property, that box is between the sheriff's entrance and then the Grimes County property. In between is Cap's property. So the drive Mary, are you with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the drive in the blue box, is that in the bid?
No, that's
It's in the estimate.
Okay, so the bid is only the drive going into the sheriff's office, is that correct? Okay. So at some point, potentially, we could have 3 access points to that facility. One's more straight in without having to go through the jail property and that parking lot in the front. Is that right, Chad?
Yes.
Commissioner? Okay. All right.
So let me make sure I understood you. So in the bid packet, the outline where the current sheriff department drive is, that's in the bid packet.
Well, there's gonna be no improvements to that. It's gonna go, it's just the bid packet is just for the parking lot
In front of the sheriff's office.
in front of the sheriff's office and the parking lot for the.
Okay, so no driveway.
No drive. Well, there's an
Because I heard you
there's
say
an
the
ad
bid. I
alternate.
just want to know what bid
Well,
you're
there's
talking
an ad
about.
alternate for that.
Ad alternate.
The bid he's talking about, I think, is the additional concrete that's gonna be poured in the sheriff's department parking lot, because part of that's not paved.
Correct.
And then the parking lot that's in.
Okay, but not the driveway.
Yeah.
So the driveway that's currently there would remain as is.
Yes.
The only improvements would be the unpaved portion of the sheriff's drive would be taken care of. Now, that 285, that doesn't include the rest of the flat work of the parking lot for the new facility, does it, or does it?
In the standard bid, the parking lot's in the standard bid. I believe the 200 was an estimate for the drive itself, connecting it to the parking lot. For the new drive, couldn't make it to the
Okay.
parking lot.
All right. Very well. So those were the handouts that I had. Oh, the one other thing that I want to give you, commissioners, and you may already have this, you may have already gotten it from the auditor, but these are checks that we've written to PGAL thus far. And I guess the first time we had PGAL on board, that was back in September of 2013, and there was $18,783 that was paid to those folks at that time. Since 9/30 of 2018 through 9/30 of 2019, those are the bills that have been submitted and I presume paid to PGAL. You total those numbers, that's $450,647.50. If you add the $18,000 that was paid back in 2013, it's $469,430.52. And I only share that information with you just to say that, okay, we can say, stop, we're not going any further, we're not doing anything, but we have paid this amount of money to get us this far in the process. Upcoming on the financing for the project, and I'm sure some of y'all have talked with Ben, our outside financial person, on what the requirements are, but Commissioner Mallett and I guess Commissioner Cox, y'all provided Ben a schedule going back from July the 24th as to what we're going to be doing and what the calendar is and what are the requirements for postings and notifications and getting information out for contractors to bid on the project, and then bids are due by a particular time, and then things continue from there. I did talk with Ben, actually I talked with him again this morning, and these dates are flexible. We have a need to push them further out. We have the right to do so. There is no penalty for pushing out further if that's the decision of this court at a later time that we decide to do that. However, the one cost that is coming up is we have and I don't know what the correct terminology, see if I can see.
It's to get a credit rating.
It's the credit rating call, and that's scheduled for next Tuesday. Mary Nichols and myself and Ben will be talking to some people in part of the process. There is a $15,000 cost to that. And I asked Ben, I said, well, if we make that call and we get that credit rating, is that credit rating good for a couple of weeks, or how long does it last? He said, no. He said, typically, it's good for a year. He said, but you'd probably want to, once you get that credit rating act, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but probably within 6 months or so. And he said, you really wouldn't need to do another credit rating until there was an official audit done of the county, if I remember exactly, or close to what he said. So anyway, we do have an expense approaching, and that's something we've approved to go ahead and, as a court, to go ahead and go out and get that bond rating. And if we don't go through on this project, then we'll add another $15,000 to what we've already spent as a cost of doing business, I guess. But if we have to push, or we decide to push the calendar to any degree, that $15,000 is still going to hold good for 6 months to 12 months out. So it won't be a loss.
Judge, can I make a comment?
You sure can.
You mentioned me being part of that calendar. I'm not disputing the calendar. I just wasn't part of that. I think that was through the auditor's office.
Okay. Only reason I referenced you is because you're part of the building committee from the court. Okay.
It was kind of back dated or set from the time of, basically when we would approve or
Okay, fair enough.
approve of the contract, so it was kind of backdated from there, the steps we needed to take.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'd like to open it up. I don't mean to hog this because this is a workshop where we all have the opportunity to share our thoughts. One thing that Mary did present, I don't know if you presented it to us or individually or how you got the information out, but if we borrowed $5 million and if we borrowed it at 3.5%, Mary put together
It's an amortization, I just pulled it off the internet.
a proposed schedule of payments where one would occur in March of 2020. And then for some reason, there's another payment that's due September, because there's interest payment and principal payment. You can pay one or the other, you can pay both at the same time. I'm not exactly
We could
sure.
probably pay them both at the same time, but definitely the one in March is the main thing, getting one in March.
Right.
And after, I think, I was kind of wondering, because that was kind of a fee that we weren't expecting, but I remember now that Ben had mentioned that lots of folks are actually borrow that first interest payment in there as well, instead of having to pull it out of your budget or budget for it to begin with.
But most of the time, when I spoke to him yesterday evening when I left, he said it's depending on the timing. If we did everything by October, then you would have the 2 payments in next year's budgets, March and September. But if you push the timeline back, you would then only have the 1 payment. It just depends on which way one would
What
fall
actual
in
timing
next
of
year's
that.
budget. One would fall in the preceding budget for, I guess, 21, because you have to set your tax rate in your budget. If we don't do it by October, we can't put the tax rate in
Right.
this year's
Yes.
budget. So you would make 2 interest payments. Typically, you make 2 interest payments and a principal payment in a year. So we would make the interest payment from fund balance. And then once the new year comes in, the 2021 budget, then your payments would then come out of the money that you got from the proceedings from the tax notes. Other than that, you can still make the payment, but it would have to come from fund balance of some source like that. But it's all in the timing. So he said if it fell to December, you would have 1 this year and then 1 the following year. Then it takes over with the tax rate.
The interest would
Yes.
probably fall into April or May, and then the next payment would come out of the
Right.
2021
It would
budget.
push the September one over.
Yep. Because one of the things that our auditor kind of shocked me with yesterday is, well, if we've got to pay that in September, then we've got to put that in this budget. And that amount that you were suggesting was 436, just off the internet, $436,795, which is a fairly significant chunk of money.
Well, and if we have to make a payment in March and 1 in September, we'll have to budget for both of those payments.
Well, because this is kind of out of my wheelhouse. So the fund balance, what can we pay out of the fund balance? Because as you put money together for us and said, okay, these are what our reserves are and so forth, what is that number, or what do you think that number is going to be October 1?
Well, we know we have 9 million,
Okay?
okay? And it's hard to say what that number is gonna be because we continue to get invoices for 2019
Sure.
into the first part of November, so.
Okay. So let's just, well, we're not supposed to vote on anything, but can we agree to work with a $9 million number for right now? Okay. You don't think it's probably going to be less than that, or if it was, much less than that? If anything, it might be a positive to the 9 million? All right. So if we work with a $9 million reserve right now, okay, that'll keep at least me on the same page with you. Our budget, our proposed budget for, the auditor has too many distractions.
Maybe a good one.
Hopefully. Should about $5 billion. Meeting adjourned. All right. The budget document that was passed out yesterday, and I've got 2, so I need clarity. What's the bottom line number on the budget that y'all have is it the 28,795 or is it the 28,818? Page 38, last one.
28,818.
28,818, so I'm gonna put this one out of the way. Okay, 28,810. So, I'm going to put Murphy in contempt of court, distracting our auditor. No. If we go to our current proposed budget as it is right now, what, Jesse, and also what you put together is the $28,810,000 in change, right? That's the one we're all working off of?
28 million.
Yeah, okay. So we have a $28,810,000 budget. But, okay, 293 and 4 cents. Mary, you like to, I say you like to, you've proposed that we keep a 6-month reserve. By definition, does our 6-month reserve equal 14,400,000?
That's those numbers that are right there on the green.
Well-
Just hand it out. Under your notepad.
Under my notepad, okay.
Okay, if you see the total of fund balances unappropriated under the green,
Yes,
you see that that's 20,904,000.
okay,
Our 6-month operating budget would be 14,405,000.
okay,
So that only leaves us with about 6.5 million actually in there. Now granted, I understand that we're gonna be getting income in, but I wanted to point that out.
okay.
When you say we're going to be getting income in, can you clarify that better?
Well, like all of the revenues that we get in each year, we'll be getting in revenue next year, and so, you know, yes, we would like to keep 14.5 million in reserves. And so we know that 9 million of this 20 million is already committed. So that leaves 11, basically 11 million, which would give us almost a 5-month reserve.
The 9 million only gives us a 5. I thought that was with us having a 6-month reserve.
6-month reserve is, we have 9 million set aside for the building, okay? So that would leave us with right at 11 million, 11.9.
Okay, so that's just a little under the 5-month reserve as you have it noted here.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I thought the number of 9 million was with keeping the 6-month reserve. When you gave us those numbers before.
Well, when I gave you those numbers before, that was before y'all added another 1.5 million plus to the budget.
Okay. Well, you just said this morning though, we had 9 million.
Yeah, and we do have 9 million set aside in the, in that fund, in capital improvements.
Okay. But that was already dipping into the 6-month reserve.
Well, it will with the budget for next year, yes.
Okay.
But see, what people aren't understanding, I think, is that we're not gonna pay the 5 million, all of it up front.
Agreed.
You know, we'll have the cost of getting them onto the lot. You know, they'll need a startup cost to move their equipment and their portable office and stuff. So that they're gonna ask for up front. And then, Chad, you can say how they'll bill the rest of it.
Yeah, it's just as work is progressing, so. Okay, well, I was under the impression that whenever we asked for the 9 million, or asked what we had available, the 9 million was based on holding that $6 million reserve. I mean,
Well-
6-month reserve.
It was back at that time. and we agreed to move the money and everything. And then y'all increased the budget. So that changed what our 6-month supply should be.
Yes, I understand that, but I was thinking that 9 million still was not, yeah, I guess what is our updated number that we have? You said 9 million, we asked, we had a good number of 9 million is what we were gonna get based on the expenses and everything that's coming out of
Right.
this fund balance.
Right. And like I say, that
So
will
we
leave
still have
us,
that.
that would leave us just shy of the 12 million. It would leave us at 11.9, so basically we would have 5 months
5-month
operating
reserve.
supply.
With the 9 million.
With the
Okay,
9 million.
I'm still not, okay, when we asked what we, if we had 9 million, I was thinking that was with the, like I said, with the 6
That's
months.
set aside in capital improvements.
And we are required by statute to maintain a 90-day reserve, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and that's mainly for like cash flow.
Sure, no,
I
I
mean,
get
you've
it.
got to have that. I mean, I wouldn't want to go
Yep.
that low, anywhere close to that.
No, I agree, because, and if or grant opportunities come up, we want to be able to pay ours up front, and I totally understand that.
Ms. Mary, so the difference between what you're saying now, between them 9 million and the 12 million 5-month reserve that you have wrote on the paper, but you're saying it's a little less than the 12, it's 11 something. Between that and the 6 month, then you're talking about a 3 million. So where's the 3 million difference at? I mean, you saying we increased the budget, but it's not all because of the budget. Something else has to be. Is it because you haven't received the other additional revenue? Is that making the difference, or what's making the difference between the 14 and the 9?
Part of,
Because we only increased the
I'm
budget
going-
by $1 million.
okay. All that, these figures, the fund
Last year.
balance figures are audited figures from October of 2018. I have not put in on this spreadsheet our income and expenses for this year because I know that it's gonna change quite a bit
Sure. before
the end of the year. So I felt it was best to go off of our audited figures. And, you know, I've broken it down for you, what's restricted and then what's committed. The committed can be, if the court were to decide to do it, they could vote to move some more of the committed into the fund balance. But then in the unappropriated, under the green, you see there's 20 million. That's what I'm basing it off of. I don't take into consideration these restricted and committed fund balances whenever I'm looking at what I'm operating, because the restricted, they can only be used for those things. The committed is something that the Commissioners Court has said, we want these monies to go for this purpose. And then the unappropriated, that is items that we can use towards the building. And these numbers don't reflect the amount of money that we have transferred from Fund 10 through 86 into Fund 49, because that's our audited figures from last year.
So where did you come up with the $9 million number?
Well, we moved 7.9 million out of other fund balances, and we had we had 1.2 million in capital projects. So that's where I came up with the 9 million.
Okay. And that was leaving, that's what I mean, but that was leaving us the 6 months originally, right, or not?
Originally, yes.
Madam Treasurer, I'd ask you, I will, I had asked you for some information, and that information you wanted to pass by the auditors to take a look at. And the question I had for you was, what is our average monthly balance in our checking account?
Our average,
And when I say checking account,
about 29 million,
about 20,
but that includes all funds.
I understand.
Okay.
So, Mary, I'm gonna go through my simple math, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong, because somewhere I'm wrong. But and I'm gonna use round numbers. If we have $29 million on average in the bank,
But we still have some outstanding checks, just saying.
understand, but you have some outstanding income too. Okay, but on average, you can kind of look at the monthly balance, we've got 29 million. All right. If we have 29 million in the bank, and we've got a $28,810,000 budget, half of that budget is 14, I'm gonna use a round number of 15 million. So that's 15 million. So if I take the 15 from the 29, I now have 14 million still in the checking account. So that's my 6-month reserve. I have fund balances that are restricted for a total of $1,350,000. And I'm not going to use 133. Then we have 12,750,000 still in the monthly average. And then the fund balances that are committed at 3.6 million, how do we handle that?
Well, as you can see, one of it is the road and bridge unappropriated. What's left in capital murder, that used to be 103,000. And that one I did
103
incorrectly. It should be,
$300,000.
And we, no, 1,003,000 because we moved 500,000 from that into the capital
Okay.
projects. So that one is a little bit different. But the thing is, when you look at what we have available, you need to look at what is really unrestricted, uncommitted, and that's the 20.9 million.
Okay, and I guess that's where I'm kind of confused. If we have the 20.9 million, and then the 6-month reserve is 14.4, so we have essentially 6.5 million.
Right.
And we had 9 before, so I'm still not really understanding where that $2.5 million went. When we, from last year to this year, we only increased our budget by $1 million.
I didn't bring the budget in here with me. I had it in my stack. I didn't get it.
Okay. Let's get this question and I'll go ahead. Stand by. Pause.
Part of that is probably the fund balance that we're using in the 2020 budget and the fund balance that we used in the 2019 budget.
We're using fund balance in the 2020? What fund balance, how much fund balance we're using in the 2020?
What is the total, what's the number?
In 2020, from the proposed that's on file, because I don't believe any of the changes you made after the proposed. 6.4 million is what we're using. So
And that's
your
designated for the building, right? That's what's,
5 million of that.
5 million is for the building, the remaining is for the other funds. And if you'd like me to list them off, I can. The biggest one would be road and bridge, the 1.1 million. It's 1.165.
but that's out of committed, no, right?
That would be
Yeah.
out of committed, yes, sir.
Mr.
And
Peter?
all of your fund balances that you're using are going to be out of the either committed or restricted. You're not going to be using them out of the, let me see. I think maybe only 35,000 you're using out of.
So that's, I guess that's where I was getting confused too, is, you know, you mentioned 9 million, I was thinking that was with us keeping the 6-month reserve.
Well, and that's
That's
what
what
it
I
would
thought the
have
number you were
been.
trying to give us was with the 6-month reserve and the 9 million that we have.
Right.
So is that based on the potential for what's gonna be coming in? We're talking about 3 million that might be coming in to go into fund balance?
It's a very strong possibility because we have been averaged 2 to 3 million a year going into fund balance.
Okay. And it's kind of looking pretty close to that $2 to $3 million most likely coming into fund balance.
Not yet.
Well, that will be, so that money can be there for, okay. So essentially, we could almost add 2 to 3 million to that 20.9. Okay, I feel better about the $9 million mark and then
Okay.
having that 6-month reserve now. Okay.
All right. Comments, questions, thoughts, other ideas?
I've got some comments.
Go ahead.
Sure. So, a little bit of history here. I've been in and around these buildings in Grimes County for the majority of a good percentage of my adult life, and I've worked in them. I recognize the need for updated facilities. I don't think that's the question. The question, if we look at this, is what are the goals? Well, this process started back when I came into Grimes County in 2001. And I believe every administration since that point, maybe with the exception of one, has attempted this process and been unsuccessful. This current process started off with the discussion and goal of building new courtroom facilities and expanded into the whole building, which I understand. And then we fast forward to today, or yesterday, when the auditor provided the list of, or the figures, that it would potentially cost to build the entire facility to the county by borrowing $5 million, because I think there's enough evidence out there to support that as being a fairly accurate number if we go off the architect estimate and the other adds based on the amount of fund balance that we have this morning. I have difficulty wrapping my mind around how this county, with the current budget situation that we have, will make payments for the next 7 years ranging from $873,000 to $740,000 without it having a negative impact. And I'm here to say this morning and suggest that we don't get ourselves in that situation. And I think we can accomplish the goals that we have of building facilities courts and administration, and we can do it probably without going into debt. My suggestion would be, at this time, we focus our efforts on the real need and the initiation of the conversation, which was the court facility, the True Justice Center. We can get that done without having to borrow any money. I'm fairly confident of that. If we don't borrow money, that allows Grimes County to avoid millions of dollars of debt. It also does another thing. It sets a funding priority for the future. Because if we rely on our goal of building new facilities, we can continue to budget as if we are having to make that payment without the burden of actually having to make that payment. If we don't have the burden of paying, we'll just say $800,000 a year, we don't have to sacrifice the progress that we've made thus far with some of the initiatives that we've started. For example, the road and bridge, the additional drainage crew, the additional paving goals that he has. Greg's back there. We've implemented and supported an IT department that I believe if we have to budget an additional $800,000 every year for the next 7 years, at least that's what's on this.
Sure.
All of it is in jeopardy, and I see a train wreck at the end. I appreciate your reference to the calendar, because I hope that you understand that I'm not necessarily opposed to the facilities, but I do have some concerns about the speed in which we're going through this process. That's evident this morning with this meeting. And I think we need to step back. We need to take some time, and I'm not saying to stop the project, but we need to slow down and figure some of this out. If that's just my opinion. But I think that we can accomplish our goals, keep the county debt-free, continue the initiatives that we have, and have a greater analyzation of the budgeting process in the future. You've already mentioned, Judge, cutting 3%. I mean, you made that statement.
I did.
Of next year, cutting 3%. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to doing that, but I want to do it because we're cutting 3% because we can, not because we have to. And sacrificing all these other initiatives, sacrificing the progress that we've made because we're burdened with this bill, and we did it when we might not have should have done it.
Fair enough.
Well, previously, we did look into just putting the Justice Center in there with the supporting offices, with just the courtrooms and the supporting offices for that. And the difference between that and adding the additional offices was $2.5 million. So, I mean, we
That's-
figured the value in going ahead and doing that was best to add, and that was kind of the decision we made as a commissioner's court back in, I don't know what day of year it was, this is dated, before we went, that was part of the process with PJL. We got an estimate for that, and it was an additional $2.5 million. And the estimates were all still pretty close to the same. as they are now. So we felt the value in adding those offices was gonna be there. And I agree with you. I mean, $8 million, $800,000 a year is way too much. But I think, if we have the 9 million, with the 6-month reserve, and then we can use some of that reserve, maybe 2.5 to $3 million of that reserve still maintain a healthy fund balance for any emergencies or anything like that. That will get us a lot closer to, and at least kind of see what kind of bids we get. If we come in at the $11 to $12 million range, we don't have to have all those ad alternates at this time. You know, we're looking at a $12 million. If we have 9 million and we pull 3 million out, we can almost not even have to finance anything at all. There's potential for that as well.
And I'm good with
At
that.
least for the Justice Center. Then by the time we move out, this building would be in conversation for the future budgets and see, you know, then we could potentially, you know, borrow $500,000 or, you know, $1 million to renovate this one and pull offices in here.
And I certainly appreciate that. And I mean, I see a path where we wouldn't have to borrow any money.
Mhm.
And that's the path that I would like to stay on.
Mhm.
I think it's,
Well,
I
then we'd
think
have to
it's
go
fair.
back and redesign. You'd have to, you know, we would have to pay PJL, I don't know how much money to redesign, to back off those offices. Like I said, it was only a $2.5 million difference in the estimates for adding those additional offices. Because the biggest majority of the bill, you know, is all the millwork and everything on the courtrooms is where your vast expense is in there.
look, I'm just stating that it would be my desire to remain debt-free.
Absolutely.
Not have to borrow any money. I think any type of payment at this point on the budget sacrifices too much for me. And that's kind of where I stand on it. I mean, I think we can do this project without putting this additional burden on the taxpayers, because somebody's gonna have to pay for it, whether it be by taxes, sacrificing service. It's gonna cost.
I agree. I think, like I said, I still think there's potential, even with the design that we have in place, to not have to borrow any money. There's very good potential for that, or very, very little money. If we had $1 million, it would probably be a $200,000 a year burden, which would be a lot more easier to swallow than an $800,000 a year burden.
Well, sure, but let me ask this question. In 18 and in 19, how much did the court budget for PGAL?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, we pay, anything that was budgeted came from fund balance.
I believe it was the first year was
three.
$300,000, I believe.
Yeah, but it was budgeted out.
Because it
fund
was gonna be
balance.
through, yeah, but I thought we had a
I
line
think
item
we
for
did
it.
budget 300,000.
Yeah,
We did.
yeah.
I guess because
Where you at?
I mean, I guess my point is if we had a line item in
Probably
there
like me
for the
didn't see.
300,000 or whatever it was that we were paying PGAL, or whatever the contract was going to be, that in turn is, if we got an $800,000 note, that's 300 of the $800,000 note. So Commissioner Cox, we've already got some commitment there, and I appreciate your comments. If we can figure out how to do this without borrowing any money, that's certainly the best right direction to go. But it's just like, you know, when we put the money in for the fairgrounds, the reason we had to put a big chunk of money over in the fairgrounds is why? Because we've neglected to take care of that location for previous years. Are we doing the same thing county-wide in we're not putting the right amount of money into the right things, and we're neglecting what we have in the rest of the facilities, or what the need is?
And for the fairgrounds, two times, there's been groups in the county that came together and borrowed the money to renovate the fairgrounds. $100,000 in '83, and then 300,000 in 2000 or 2002. That money's been paid back by the groups. I don't think the county taxpayers are gonna look at us for borrowing money, look down on us for borrowing money to get this done. Because it's been in the process of trying to be done for 18 years, and it hadn't been done. The longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost us, just like the fairgrounds. You know, we didn't take care of that for years and years. Now we had to spend $285,000 on that.
$295.
Next year, we will have, after next year's budget, we will have that available to pay on these notes. Another question, I said we had a tax officer. How much is our taxes going up a year in recent years? Do you have, can you give us?
You might ask that.
Welcome, Shannon. Can I impose on you to come to the podium?
Yes, sir.
That way when you speak, the world will see.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Shannon Sanders. I'm the Assistant Chief Appraiser with the Grimes County Appraisal District. Also, I might ask a little bit about assessed values. This year, we had about a 12% increase. Looking back, we had some decreases. From 15 to 16, we had a 2.56% decrease. From 16 to 17, we had a 0.11% decrease. And 18, we went up 6.5%. And then 19, we're going up about 12%.
That was the oil. I think.
Oil and gas.
Oil and
in
gas
those-
was really
in those
hard.
years. So we're kind of stabilized there,
Yeah.
so I don't foresee that. Not gonna make any predictions in the future, but, you know, we're kind of stabilized on that oil and gas stuff.
If you stay right there, Mr. Shannon, we had a conversation, and I asked him to take a realistic look, let's just be real, along with Jesse, as to what our state legislators has mandated down to the counties and cities, that we have a 3.5 cap now on revenue raised on property, personal property. Is that correct, Mr. Shannon? It's based upon
That would be your rollback rate.
the rollback rate. So.
It doesn't affect the new property, it affects.
No, it doesn't. But where I'm going with that is, I asked him to take a look at, if that were imposed upon us now, how would that reflect back to us in our present situation? And what we discussed is, we're at 0.51 with that cap, if we'd imposed that cap this year, which would have in turn had us having $444,000 less this year if that cap were imposed on us already. So moving forward, I was concerned about next year, that cap is gonna be in place. We were right at the 8%, is that correct? 8%,
Real
almost
close.
rollback rate this year. Going forward, we're not gonna be able to have anything but 3.5.
That would affect our M&O budget, I believe, but for the INS, it does not affect the INS, the 3%.
Not the INS, but my concern was.
Yes, but for our M&O, definitely.
Let's look at it realistically. If we had the same budget we have this year, I mean, for next year. So we'd be making cuts somewhere. Not unless new properties and businesses come into Grimes County and increase that race, or new fees, or some non-ad valorem revenue coming in, will be the only way that we have more money to operate with. So I asked him that because I was trying to figure out how, over the years, how close we've remained to that cap. If
3.5.
And it's a very hard figure to calculate because it's a moving target almost.
Right,
Yeah.
predicting new value is the hard part of that.
So I was concerned about looking at that picture realistically, The other thing I wanted to go back to was, Commissioner Cox talked about the initial goal. The initial goal that I thought we were going down the trail of creating a justice center because of the concern from our district judges, the concern over the age of our courthouse and the ability to hear. When it went from a justice center and the supporting staff and started adding the administrative side, that cost concerned me. And I spoke to the judge, I think last week about it, and I was concerned that why couldn't we just stick to our initial goal of the Justice Center and look at either shelling it out, like we looked at so many plans. You had a shell, and I think it was 21,000 or something square
Well,
feet.
like I said, there was one for 24,000 square feet, which included just the justice, just the courtrooms and the supporting staff. And back then it was a 31,000 square feet, which added the administrative. And by adding that, it was about like I said, $2.5 million. And I thought we decided as a court that the value of that I guess it was, the estimates then were roughly $8 million for the courts and supporting, and and for adding the administrative, it was roughly 10.5.
And that was back when? What schematic is that?
I don't have a date on these.
It was before December of 2017.
It was? Okay. Well, when we started that, that's where I thought we were going. It evolved.
Well, that's what I
And-
mean. I think we saw the difference in the from, it moved from 9 to
12.
from 9 to about 11 to 11.5. So we figured the value in that, go ahead and having those facilities, because of these facilities too. I think this building at the time was foundation problems, and we're able to fix those. We felt the need to, because of the, it's percentage wise, it wasn't that much more
Well,
to add, so we decided to go ahead and go with that and steered PJL to actually design the full with the administrative in there.
well, when we initially started this, we looked at so many designs, as you can tell by the bills that we've received from the architect firm. And we've looked at a lot of those, and I don't know where we are, which plan we're looking at as far as just a justice center. But many years ago, when our church was considering building, we thought that we would initially go ahead and pay the payments ahead of time to ourselves. And I think that's the same idea he had, as far as if you stick with a justice center, that same payment that you would pay somebody else, you could pay yourself. And in 7 years' time, you'd have enough money to build whatever additional facilities you want to build. Because you're still talking about, we talked about, and I'm glad we're here talking, because we've talked about the adult probation. There's been a lot of talks of y'all had the meeting we talked about last year where everybody was going, and from here and from there, and it got kind of muddled and confusing to me as to where everybody was going. And then you got a $250,000 cost. I think you sent us an email about doing this building. That's in that note.
250,000 is a low estimate.
And that's a low estimate. To redo this building, to bring what in?
You're probably, what, 350?
You're gonna be at 300, 350, 250, depending on things that you do to this building. If we decide to run the chiller, which is a great cost, but you have time, you have 10-year warranties on the AC and stuff. So depending on the cost and what you want to do this building, remodeling isn't gonna cost, it's gonna cost $200,000, but if you start moving chiller lines and putting air handlers, you're looking at another $100,000.
And to me, some of the renovations and costs that we spent over the year, we just did some costs here at this building not long ago. We're steady trying to improve the buildings that we have. So when you talk about the 200 to 300 to renovate, what? Is it for the adult probation to come over here? Or what is that for? I mean, what is that?
I've never been told a set, the court has decided this is what's going in here. I've heard several people tell me that, so we went off of what has been said in the past. Adult probation was gonna come and take this side of the building. Road and Bridge was gonna take that side of the building. Environmental, 911, all CATS departments were taken where the tax assessor, the treasurer office would be the voters' storage because of easy access to the courthouse. But that's all, that I don't believe in my thought process that that has been voted on by the court.
Right.
It's only been, as you said, muddled around.
So it's gotten very confusing to me is where I was going with that.
Me too.
I don't know what's going where, and I think
Well,
we
until
need
you actually
to.
do an evaluation of space and requirements and kind of get down there and actually do a study, we don't know, we just know we have potential for this building to be utilized.
But that's something we haven't sit down as a court and just really, I know y'all talked about it in the building committee or whatever committee y'all talked about it on, but the specifics haven't been worked out. So I would, with everything that's coming down, and that's why I was talking to Mr. Shannon about it, I needed to understand what we're faced with this cap, to where I would hate to see us take on a burden of trying to figure out how we're gonna come up with a payment and then have to navigate the cap next year, so that concerns me,
Well, I agree, but I think we can, the first step would be, this building has to be vacated in order for us to figure out what we want to do with it. And I think, like I said, I have a good feeling that we can probably build that Justice Center without even having to borrow any money.
I'm not
Very, very
confident.
down.
I'm not that
I know,
confident.
I know, but we don't know yet until we actually get the bids in to know for sure.
True, and that's what we
But
said.
that's
We
why we want a
needed
discussion about
the
what our options are.
bid
And then once we
process
get
to
the
look
bids
at the
in-
numbers.
Yeah, once we
Yes,
get
I
the bids
agree.
in, then we'll have a really good idea of what we can actually do.
I agree, but we've talked about, and Mr. Rosenberg provided us back a while back, he gave us a statement of like 3%. I mean, if you borrowed
3 million.
through 3 million versus 5 million, and what those notes look like. But I'm not confident, and maybe I'm not hearing it correctly, that we can take, we're not sure if we actually have the 9 million. Okay, we got the 9 million. Ms. Mary said we got the 9 million.
And I think we can take.
And you're saying
potentially-
taking
and I think we
fund
can
balances to add to the 9
I
million
think we can
to
take
get
it
to the what?
to get to 12 million.
To get to 12 million. But once the 12 million, then you had your add-ons of your driveways and you
Which you
had,
don't
You
necessarily
don't have to
need
do that right now, though.
Yeah.
but there were other things, incidentals.
No,
There was
the commissioner
furniture.
exactly right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
There were a list of things that she sent us, and she sent us a concern.
Well,
in
a lot of the
written-
base bid was included the furniture. The other one was, I think we can move most of our furniture that we have over there. So that was just in case at least an estimate or a bid in case we needed to buy any additional furniture that we can't move.
Was that furniture for offices, or was that
Yes.
furniture for the courtrooms?
Those were into the base bid. Those are into the base bid and base
What, those are in the base bid?
Yes.
The furniture for the courtrooms
The
and
courtrooms
stuff?
are furnished.
So the 400 and something thousand that
Was
Ms. Mary
for-
was concerned about is just other offices outfitting their offices?
That's my understanding, yes.
I don't think Commissioner's courtroom is furnished.
No, we have to buy
No,
chairs for you.
Well, I thought that was in the base bid though.
I don't think so.
Because
Oh,
I
don't
think,
know.
yeah, because all the courtrooms were supposed to have the base bid, because it's gonna be chairs that could be multiple functioning, so
I
it could be a
haven't got that
multiple
far.
courtroom. Yeah.
But I just remember hearing about that one meeting, the chairs were gonna be
Yeah.
linked.
Shannon, I don't want to worry you out. If you want to sit back down, that's for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
advice.
Judge, you and I attended the legislative update up at DDCOG. I did not attend the update conference. In that meeting, they said if you have debt service with the new rules that will come into effect, the money that you pay on that debt will be subtracted from the 3.5%. Is that correct?
I won't say right or wrong.
That's kind of what they said.
I believe that's
It
what
will
they
not,
said,
yeah, the
but
debt service, the INS will not be affected by the 3.5%.
Can I say something?
sure.
So, going back, and I appreciate concerns, and I have the same questions, Commissioner. In my mind, how to get this done without having to borrow any money and still accomplish the goals, what would we do? And I'm just throwing this out there for consideration. We build a justice center. On that move, once that's complete, we move the county court at law, the DA's office, and the 2 clerks' offices. That frees up the county clerk's building, which I believe that the President of the Historical Commission here, I think that's where they're going. But it also leaves this district clerk's area open. The amount of money that's been quoted for remodeling this building was not just pulled out of the air. That was a number that was quoted by Commissioner Husfield to me and PGAL about how much money would be set aside to remodel this building, because at the time I was in the probation department and the plan was to move the probation department here. Once the the district clerk vacates her offices, we remodel this end of this building. Once that's done, we bring adult probation back, original plan, and put them in the remodel portion of this building. That gives us the opportunity to get out of that rental situation for $35,000 a year, and it accomplishes that piece of the puzzle. All at the same time, we're over here budgeting for, and I'm doing this plan based on just building the Justice Center. We're budgeting to build the administrative side. These offices that are here will be able to continue to exist. They will have to be able to continue to exist until we complete the administrative side. Once that is complete, the offices that are remaining here in this building will move to the administrative building. And one component is who that will be at that point. Do we include the people that are not included right now? Or we stick to the original plan of moving road and bridge? Once they're vacated out of this, we can remodel this end and move road and bridge and environmental back into this end. And we still have accomplished our goal. And I argue that it can probably be done debt-free. We don't have to do it. But I appreciate Commissioner Mallett's optimism that there is always that potential that we could build the entire building debt-free. And I think that formula comes down to the level of comfort that the court has with the reduction of the emergency fund. How far do we take that down? And how comfortable are we in doing that? To whatever level that is. And the only thing we're gonna have to rely on, or one of the major components that we rely on in making that decision, is what's happened in the past. That's basically how we determine what our level of comfort is. And I think there may be an opportunity to build a whole building. But I still go back to the fact of, I think this can be done debt-free. I think that's the way it should be done. And I appreciate Commissioner Dobianski's comment about the sentiment of the taxpayers. I respectfully disagree. I believe that the taxpayers expect us to operate in a debt-free environment. It was that way when I got here. And I don't think that they expect us to take on millions of dollars in debt without their input and even maybe up to their permission. I don't think that they would pat us on the back for doing that. But I do think that they expect us to maintain their assets and their facilities. I do appreciate that.
Well, like you said, when we talked last week, we talked about getting the bids and looking at them to see what we come in with. But did I hear you correctly say, Miss Mary, there was a problem with the bid packet from PGAL?
Well, it's 1,810 pages long. And I noticed in the first few pages, 15, 16 pages of looking at it, that we had requested a propane generator instead of diesel, but they put diesel in there. And then I was talking to Al about the air conditioning and stuff, because it wasn't worded in a manner where you could really tell what they were proposing. And when he looked at it, he said, well, they're proposing a 40-ton instead of a 50-ton. And the controls weren't going to be included, and it wasn't what was requested. And, you know, I haven't had the time to look through all the 1,800 pages, and I don't know that anyone else has.
Well, mine wouldn't even download, it just shut my computer down.
Yeah.
Every time I try to look at it.
I mean, there's gonna be things things you miss. I mean, my experience in design, you're gonna miss some specs or something, I'm sure Harry
Well, that concerns
can't agree
me.
to some of that stuff. Well, I mean, like I said, you still do. I mean, there's overlook, because you print a document out that large. A lot of times you pull stuff from different projects and then you don't change things, and it's just, you know, it can be cumbersome. But like I said, that's part of the bid process, is there's questions. You answer the questions.
Is that a reasonable number of pages for a project like this?
Yeah, with the, I haven't designed a lot of buildings or any buildings at all, but from the civil side, yeah, that's excessive, it seems like. But from a building standpoint, there's a lot of specs you have to put in there.
I think you also noticed there were no mechanical.
So-
Was something missing?
No drawings. I've asked 3 times and I haven't gotten any mechanical drawings from DVR or Michael Lloyd.
Or who?
Michael Lloyd from
PGL.
PGL.
They're not on the bid packet, the mechanical?
What was provided to me, I haven't seen mechanical drawings.
So you haven't seen any of the it didn't like you have any
I
of the
seen
drawings.
prelim drawings for what we spoke about yesterday, but I never seen the final, because we had changes at that one meeting where they were gonna put a roof flap and all the ridiculousness.
Well, we need to look. Did we put the drawings on the website?
Trust me, it took 8 hours.
Yeah.
I could
Lots
see
of
the
downloads.
roof mechanical, but
So-
you said the
Yeah.
other, the mechanicals weren't there. I could see
I
them
haven't seen them.
before it shut
I
down.
don't know if they are or not.
I'll email the submittals to you and let you, I mean, if you'd really wanna spend a few hours downloading them, I guess. They haven't been too bad, I guess, from the zip. I guess uploading them on the internet was probably.
I had to
on
upload the
website.
drawings as a zip because it just wouldn't
Yeah,
budge.
yeah.
Well, my concern with that is,
If I can't get them, or you can't get them, how's the contractor?
Yeah, well, that's what Greg said, they're supposed to be getting them off the website. So, and there used to be plan rooms, there's a plan website now, so. They're supposed to be pulling them off of there.
I can access the drawings, but I don't have the large paper to print it out on, you know.
And no disrespect meant, but do you know what you're looking at when you look at them?
Nope. I know some of it, but.
Well, yeah, but I mean, for us common folk, we're gonna look and go, I guess that's okay. I guess that makes sense. But the engineers in the group, gonna have a different perception of it.
well, that's where I was going with the conversation about that was, if we proceed with this project, you're gonna have to watch overruns and change orders. So if we're not getting a proper bid from the get-go,
That's the part of the
then
addendums.
then you can anticipate having those kind of things. Another thing is, if we move forward with a project, whether it's just a center or whether it's the entire center, I think that we need to look at bringing in a company outside of PGAL and us that's gonna oversee this project and tell us the real deal, Too many times, I'm sorry to say, people cut corners that you're not aware of until later on, We see that all the time. We live that. We've lived that. We've been through that. We've seen the last project we did, we saw the cost overruns. We saw the change orders, and the scope of work, somebody has to delve in there and make sure that everything is there that should be there. We can't put it all on Al, thank you. We can't put it all on air, but there are companies, at the last conference we went to, I think Vanir, VANIR is a company that manages construction projects. And they report back to you to give you an honest, accurate report of what's going on and possibly help you avoid these overruns and these change orders. But I know that our auditor and did y'all go to the building class over at University of Texas?
We went to
Well, we're-
5 different ones.
But
Part of
somebody has to have
PGL.
knowledge of this.
Yeah, well, part of PJL's contract is $100,000 for construction administration.
Well, maybe PGL's contract for the construction, I would feel more comfortable with somebody else overseeing the project. I don't have the greatest confidence, no, sorry, PGL, in their process. It wouldn't hurt, I'm just saying, it wouldn't hurt to maybe look at bringing in somebody else outside of the people we currently have on board to do that.
I would say that is a good idea, and I will tell you, my gut feeling tells me that it would be probably in our best interest to have somebody working for us. While I certainly trust Commissioner Mallett's opinions and observations, and same thing with Al, I don't think it's fair to them. I think can they do the job? Yes, they could probably do the job, but at the end of the day, I think it might be beneficial for somebody else with expertise in this type of stuff to advise the court on whatever issues that might arise. And it doesn't put all the burden on Commissioner Mallett to make these decisions, which he's perfectly capable of doing, but I don't necessarily know that that's fair to him, because just hanging around here for a while, there's always people that are going to second guess. And, he's a big big guy. I think he could take care of himself, but I just don't think it's fair to him or Al to have that burden of overseeing this project. I mean, I think they could do it, and if that's the way we go, I'm okay with it, but I think the better position is to have an advisor, project manager.
Well, there's a gentleman that's been coming here for years. I can't think of his name right now, but he comes all the time, and he works for Vayner, and he's been, I guess, keeping his eye on the projects of what we have going on. And in talking with him and his supervisor, I think I may have sent you the email. Her name was Glenda. I can't think of her last name, but it's with the company Vayner. And I asked them what would they charge for oversight, and they said it ranges in about the field of about 50,000, and you're talking 100,000 to PGAL. It might be worth exploring other companies that can oversee a project, can look at the plans, and know that if something is missing, because too many times we get into projects, and this person speaking, and mistakes are made, and some of them are very costly, to correct. So we're not the experts in that field. You're an engineer, and I praise you for your degree, and thank you for what you do, but I think y'all are overwhelmed at times with being a commissioner and being over all of these buildings. You got a courthouse project that you're gonna have to oversee, that somebody eyes on this project would be a good route to go. If you're gonna spend this kind of money, make sure it's being spent right. Somebody else to oversee it. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket when we talk about somebody overseeing a project of this magnitude.
Well, that's PGL, that's part of what they're doing, is coming in and making sure everything's built to specs and the way they're supposed to have it done.
Have we committed that money already to them?
Mhm.
So it's in this money that we paid out already, this
No,
400?
it's in the contract with them. We've only paid them up to the point of construction drawings.
Okay,
And
I thought I
additional
saw that, but I
100,000,
wasn't sure.
Then the other part of it will be the construction administration, which is on-site visits. That's why it's pretty significant.
But keep in mind, this is a building they designed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, they should know how it's put together. And there's construction bonds, so if
But it
anything
wouldn't
is
hurt
not
to,
quite
even
right,
if
they
we
gotta
don't
come
hire
back and
them for
rebuild it.
that, maybe have somebody else look at the plans, the schematics, to make sure
Well, we've
that
already signed a
everything is
contract
in
with them
order.
to do it,
I'm just
so,
saying, if you still move forward with PGAL, we can have checks and balances on PGAL.
Okay,
Commissioners, I have a comment. I've got to run to another meeting, but I have not looked through the bid package completely, but I was wondering if anybody knows, are we at the mercy of the winning general contractor bid, that he gets to pick the subs? Or do we have any say in this? Because I won't speak for Al, but I know he and I have kind of had these discussions. Maintenance and IT are different when you're working with the subs, because, especially in IT, because we're gonna have to be transitioning systems that are live, servers, networks, camera systems, applications, all those are, especially phone systems, are gonna have to be moved live. And my personal experience has been that when you work with a vendor that you've never worked for before, and you're basically strictly just on cost bid, there's huge overruns because they've got to learn your existing systems. There's going to be lots of mistakes made because they're trying to figure out what you have now, transition into the new building. There could be tremendous outages, downtimes, cost overruns, all kinds of things, where if you work with a vendor that currently knows your existing systems and is helping you migrate those systems into the new environment, that can save you substantial amounts of money, as well as time and frustration and problems. My hope and thought would be is that we could work with the existing vendors that we work with now, that know our people, know our systems, know our environment, and can help us transition that. If we're at the mercy of the GC and he gets to pick the subcontractors for audio, video, IT, communications, et cetera, we could see a lot of potential problems there, because they're coming in completely green not knowing anything about our people, our environments, or anything. And I think there's a huge advantage in allowing, at least I know in the IT group, to have a say in approaching the GC and say, hey, we would like to use these subcontractors for this, at least this portion of the project.
We can specify which contract
Okay.
subs you would like to deal with.
Okay.
I would recommend not just putting one that you want
Right.
to deal with, but multiple for bid purposes. But
Okay.
we can definitely specify if you'd like to look in there and kind of see.
Yeah, I'd like.
Is it mainly
us
for the
to-
install
to
of
do
different
that.
things and the transition?
Right.
Or are you handling a lot of that too yourself, or is there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of that we're gonna be moving. The one that concerns me most is the phone system,
Mhm.
because we've got all these existing direct dial extensions, all these existing phone numbers posted everywhere. We've got to be able to retain those phone numbers. We've got to move those systems while they're live, especially with the Justice Department, the 911 services, all of that.
I remember there was talks about you taking care of a lot of this stuff, and I don't know exactly, I guess we need to look further and see what's actually in the
Yeah.
bid and in the
Right.
schematics of what's gonna be handled by the general contractor and what's gonna be handled by you, and we can and then we can try to verify
Yeah.
which vendors you'd like to deal with.
My whole thing with HVAC, I understand PGAL comes from, or PGAL, that I was corrected. They come from Houston. So they're gonna bring the big boys from Houston up here with HVAC. They've already strong-armed me, trying to get me to go to Daikin. But at the end of the day, when they're gone, it's me and Greg that has to fix this stuff. So, and I understand PGAL, that they're a little ouchy with me because every corner they turn, I have a different solution for them. I've looked through, I'm not gonna say I've looked through it all, but I'm over half now. There's a lot of fluff in there and cost-wise of stuff. You have a generator that's, well, I'll bring the generator just because it's been said. The generator is gonna run just lights and just the IT room. And me and Greg spent, I don't know, an hour last night talking about this. If you don't have any power and the generator kicks on and it's gonna run the IT room and the backup lights, well, who's gonna be using the servers anyhow? Nobody's got computers to run it. So that's a big cost. For backup lights, I could put batteries in that and require the maintenance crew to go monthly to check batteries. Speaking of backup lights and fire alarms,
Well, you can have emergency lights as well, and have that little capacity.
that's right.
Yeah.
So you can put a battery,
Yeah.
just like we do now. Fire alarms, you got voice audio for a fire alarm. That's more money. What happened to beep, beep, beep? And I don't say that to be funny, but that's a lot of fluff. That's a Houston fluff. Sure, would I like it? Shoot, that's cool. Here, get out of the building's on fire, or whatever it's gonna say. But that's a lot of extra money that they won't take care of when they're gone. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to take care of a voice recognition fire alarm system. That's money in the future that I don't believe we want to put out in a subcontractor to come and figure out why the guy isn't talking to us to get out of the building.
So Al and I have had some conversations, obviously. And to piggyback on one of the examples that he used, looking at the cost of maintaining the additional square footage, Al said he wanted to move away from paper towels because that's an expense it's expensive to have towels. But the current plan, if I remember correctly, doesn't call for air hand dryers in the restrooms. Well, to get those into the restrooms, that's a change order. and it may not be very expensive to make those changes. I don't know what it would be. But those are the kind of things that I think, you know, you get a bunch of those type of situations and it drives the expense to a point of, you know, getting us past the
Well, that's what we need to
possibility.
take care of those before the bid, for sure.
Well, I mean, the bid's already
We
went
have
out.
the pre-bid meeting.
No,
next
but there's addendums you can always add, like I said, you can add his to the vendors you wanna use, you can add, we wanna put in, install electric
Okay.
for hand dryers, we wanna, you know, there's lots of addendums we've got until they actually submit the bid, so.
Bringing
Those
that
can be-
hand dryer up, that's where I start, that's where PGAL and me, Michael Lloyd said in a building committee meeting, and I'm sure there's people here that's heard this, he wasn't going hand blowers because that just blows germs around.
That's what he said.
Well, that isn't his decision. That's Grimes County's decision.
We
And
put the hand sanitizer right there by it.
was the, right. I hope to have a crew that I can clean it, so we're not blowing germs around. I mean,
Well, and
that-
when that-
on my other side of the
Yeah.
job, that's what it says, you're not cleaning your bathroom correctly.
I mean, I didn't mean to open up the discussion about hygiene, but
But we can take care
It's
of
an
all those things
example.
before, we can take care of all those things before.
But
Like he said, the fluff, as far as, we can change the fire alarm, we can change.
Right.
You know.
This is the stuff that we need to be looking at
But,
now.
okay, but the question for me is, because this is not my area of expertise, with the bid information out there, Commissioner, when do we get to tell those that are bidding on the job, we want this, not that? Some of the other, we want propane versus diesel. I don't know what the cost factor on that is. We want 50-ton versus 40-ton chiller. How soon do we need to get that information to those that are bidding on the job, so that when they bid on the job, they come in with a $12 million bid versus a $14 million bid?
You do it as soon as we come up with those things. We need to put it out there as far, and get with Michael Lloyd, put the question out there, and get with Jessica and submit that to our, or put it on the website, or submit it to our plan holders.
Okay, but then how do we know that fluff is in there if you don't have the time, he doesn't have the time to go through the bid with, so to speak, a fine-tooth comb to find out all of these issues and those concerns?
Well, a lot of that time was for the building committee meetings, and it's what we wanted, and they missed a lot of those things, so.
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah.
just didn't want to talk about them, Chad.
Yeah.
It's not that they missed them. They missed them. They just wasn't gonna tell me about it because I admit it, I'm the troublemaker.
Yeah.
I'm the one that was pointing it out.
Yeah.
And they just shuffled me off and,
But that's why you were a part of that, is because when it's all said and done, you're gonna be the caretaker of
I
it.
agree, but I can't force them to talk to me. you know?
Well, we can force them to talk to
Yes,
you.
yes, sir, but I can't.
So, come up with the things that you see, and we will make sure they're
I'm
put in
reading as
there.
fast as I can. I'm
Yeah.
a slow reader.
On our agenda here, it says review and discuss plans for existing and future county facilities and financing for the new one. I think until we get, we've got some good ideas. We know we want some no borrow. We've got some that are, okay, let's borrow as little as possible. I think we're okay, but we're not gonna know where we stand until we start getting bids in from these construction firms. What I would like to address a little bit more, though, is the future county facilities, because Commissioner, you mentioned the idea of, okay, maybe, well, you know, if we did the Justice Center, does DA go over with them?
Yes.
Okay. And who else goes over with the Justice Center?
The district clerk and county clerk.
The district clerk and county clerk offices? So the only thing we're leaving out is treasurer and HR
And
Tax
tax assessor.
and the tax assessor? That's not leaving very much undone.
That's why the difference in adding that was,
Yeah.
a
Okay.
small percentage.
All right. So if we said, okay, we figure out how we can put them all over there at one time, all right? Let's just go on that assumption for the moment. Then to redo this building, because you've already spent a fair amount of money on exterior. Our exterior is probably pretty good for how long?
I got a 10-year warranty on the roof and 5-year
Okay.
warranty on paint.
So outside, we're in pretty good shape. The renovations are gonna come from the inside, and the renovations are essentially either tearing down walls and building walls, or,
Ceiling,
Ceiling.
electrical, depending on the money, the AC, the HVAC on the chiller and boiler. Really, you got interior, you got electrical that has to be redone.
okay,
You-
let me stop you there.
Okay.
So court and whoever else is here, in the annex, ultimately, who do we plan to move to the annex? Are we agreed? Yeah?
To the new building?
No, the annex, where we sit.
With us being here?
No.
We're assuming we're gonna build the building, everybody all at one time. This building is now empty. Who's gonna move into this building?
Adult probation,
Adult
All right, adult probation,
road and bridge, and environmental.
911. And then you've
Wait a
got
minute.
to finish your county clerk. You have offices over there.
I got adult probation, I got road and bridge, we got 911/environmental.
And
Okay.
voter, and I believe it was voter storage.
Yeah.
Voter storage, and then you do still have Miss Mary's office over there. Is Miss,
Yes, but Miss Mary will be moving with us
She's
over to
moving?
the new building.
what about the books?
Well, that's an issue that we need to,
What about
Discuss.
EMC?
We talked about having
got an office.
additional storage outside of the building as well.
We did.
But that's not included in the bid.
No,
no.
that's what I mean. We're talking about newer facilities or moving people around or whatever,
But
so.
where
Well, would
is-
you want to
where is
include that
EMC?
in a bid at $377 a square foot?
No,
No, it's not.
It would have been a
Thank you.
portable, it'd have been a true storage building.
Storage.
I mean, that's $125 to $150 square foot building.
Where are you gonna
And
put
that's high.
EMC?
Do what?
Where are you gonna put EMC?
I don't know, that's why we're talking.
Isn't he already in that building?
He got an office over there.
I think it does.
Yeah, he's got a new build, he's got an office in the building.
In the new building,
In the veterans officer too.
and the veterans officer is over there.
I know the veterans does, but I don't know about,
I could be wrong.
I have a
don't- I don't know.
schematic.
I don't remember. We've changed it so many times.
Yeah, that's what I was, I don't know.
Now-
which one.
So, okay, so we know adult probation, we know road and bridge, we know 911 environmental. And the reason for getting road and bridge and environmental and Miss Mary out of that facility over there is because what's the repair situation or upgrade to that facility? How long is it gonna last?
It's not gonna last very long.
Well, is that 10 minutes or is that 2 years?
2 years, I mean, it's gonna last as long as you tell me I gotta take care of it, but
But the cost,
$46,000 is just for the roof in the back.
How much?
46,000.
Okay.
Then I have,
And
at
if-
any time of the year, I got 2 to 6 inches of water underneath Harry's building. So I'll have another 40,000 in drainage that I'll have to do.
Okay.
So you're gonna look at 100 to 200,000. They're concrete walls, and I can take you now and show you a crack that runs top to bottom that's been there for 5 years.
That's fine, but I mean, the point is, we're either gonna spend the money over there, or we're gonna spend the money over here.
yeah.
So,
That building-
it makes sense for road and bridge to come over here and 911 and environmental. You can patchwork that building
I
for
don't see him on here.
some period of time.
Sure.
And at that time, then we sell the building or we raise it to the ground and we sell the property.
Right, the only problem you have with that is, road, cat, environmental, road and bridge, sign, barn. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Harry. You have a workshop back there for your sign guy. He'll have welders and cutting, no?
There's your
I don't
list.
know what he has.
He can come over
He's
here.
got a small workshop back there in the portable building, basically.
Now, is that portable building the one we moved from back here?
No,
Now, the cage at the end, say portable, it's a metal building.
Put the fence around it, or on the side?
It's got the cage in the back.
Yeah.
And interior storage and working area. And that doesn't need to be moved. You know,
It's functional as is.
It's functional as is.
Okay.
It's not really an issue.
Right, but if you were to sell that property, you have to.
Yeah.
We'd have to figure something else out, okay.
Correct.
It's in the road right away, we can't sell it anyway.
Oh, okay. He knows that, we can't sell it in the road.
But then with Road and Bridge, that building vacated pretty much, and the DA's office vacated pretty much. That's a reasonable piece of property for
Sure it is.
somebody to take a look at. Okay.
And I don't think EMC is in the new building.
I don't think so either. I'm pulling up the
It-
drawings.
His heart's desire is to move into the sheriff's department. And I
Oh,
think
yeah, I do remember
he's
that
looking at-
discussion.
I think
County
Jack
attorney,
Wood is moving to the new building, correct?
yes,
And
and the county attorney,
he's
isn't
got
he
his
moving
eye
in?
on some of that space that's going
He's not.
But I thought the
He's agreed to
sheriff's,
that, but,
the sheriff's office, I thought was gonna use that space.
yeah, like I said, I don't know if anybody's agreed to that, but I know that's what his interests are.
Well, we can certainly have some discussion with the sheriff and see if we can have space. You only need one office. All right.
Where is Constable Blake's office currently?
It's in the sheriff's office.
Because he's moving to the new building.
Who is?
You say bailiff? Constable,
bailiff, that's
constable's
not-
office?
Well, that's just.
They have a constable office.
Constable's office. That's what it said.
That, I think they're talking about the court bailiff, because the constables
No,
are.
it says constable's office,
Oh, really?
right here.
They probably have that listed as constable because the constable serves as bailiff in the courts. It's probably used by all of them that's gonna be served in different courts.
There's a constable's office, there's a bailiff's office.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there is.
Anybody else coming into this building?
Voters gets the end.
I got voter storage in here.
I didn't know if you did.
Adult probation, RMB, 911 with environmental, voter storage.
And I think, Al, are you coming into this building right over here?
I don't know where I'm going. I will be in here with, community service with adult probation. But
We're
I
talking
don't know
about
if
having
maintenance.
yeah, we're
That's
talking
what
about
we're doing
having,
now is
and I don't
here.
think that's in the maintenance storage is not in the bid, right?
No, sir.
So that could be an additional thing, lower, construction for sure than the other building we're talking about. But it would be for, and be able to accept, it's gonna be raised, we're talking about be able to accept 18-wheeler loading and probably having an office off of that.
Yeah, we'll need, for
Yeah.
janitorial,
Yeah.
I'll have to have a split somewhere.
The concrete work for maintenance building is in the bid out there, but the completion of the building is not.
Yeah. We were trying to cut as many corners as we could initially to at least get the building going and then see where we could go from there. To try to not have to borrow.
If we didn't, to help you out, I mean, if we can, I don't know how you put that off with the people needing storage and stuff like that, the maintenance shed. If we don't sell the building here, where I'm at, the only thing I'm gonna need for I'm not saying that I don't ever wanna see a maintenance building out there, because at some point, you're gonna ask me to take care of the sheriff's department, you're gonna ask me to, so it needs to be done. But in the near future, I could work out of there, but I'm just gonna need like a vehicle better than I have to transport all the stuff over there. Cause I have closets similar to this in the new building, and that won't take everything that I house.
Okay.
Just to give you a way out, just. You go ahead, ask me, I know you're gonna ask me something. Go ahead.
Does anybody have anything else to offer or any questions
I
in
have a
regards
question.
to what we have?
What did we say was coming here, in this room?
This
Road and
is,
bridge.
This room.
Just,
This
to-
room.
just to
room
this
will
building, it's gonna be
this-
like revamped based on
Yeah,
what
I'm
the needs
this
saying-
are.
right here,
This space, because I
This will
thought
be-
that if adult probation is taking the space that the district clerk was in, then what is this space?
this will all be adult probation,
They need all of this space.
yeah.
They need all of this space.
Well, we need to actually
Something
physically study it and decide the best use for this whole building. So, I mean,
This
It's
is
a
also
pretty big
used as a
footprint,
public
'cause
place.
they have to have all
So
private
I
uses.
don't know if we would have to move.
we would have,
This
the
polling place?
commissioner's courtroom to be used as a polling place in the new.
In the new building, so you would
That'd be
just
the
have voting
multifunction.
over there instead of over here?
Or they could have it at the old courthouse.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Technically.
In the building that you talk about, the historical commission, what is that? Is that storage? What is that when you say that?
Oh, no, it's old adult probation that we use for storage.
No, I'm saying where the county clerk is moving from, what is that building going to be dedicated as?
Okay, so I'll put on my other hat on that one. I would like to petition the court to say that, the Grimes County Historical Commission would like to have that to start a museum in it. Because all of our artifacts are in people's garages, in people's closets.
Okay, you're talking storage and you're talking museum. So you're talking museum with a curator.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
And possibly additional storage for my office as well.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to find a place to put all those books that are over there.
okay, but part of the discussion is that when the maintenance facility over here is built on the back side, it's not that much more to put some storage room
Right.
lockers on that.
Right.
Where-
That will have to happen to be able to move those. And I'm also trying to consolidate and, get things to where we won't need as much room as we have over there, but we still have a lot of books. And we do have options. We have vendors that will store books for us.
Sure.
At no charge. And you can also go take them to the Texas State Library too, depending on what it is.
Now, is that gonna be climate control storage?
It would have to be.
Yeah.
It can be.
It would have to
We'll run everything off the chiller. Because the chiller will, as I seen it in the plans, the chiller sits right by the, maintenance, shed. And that will be just one pipe in one area where, that can handle that square footage.
I have some stuff over in that building also that anything before 1955, we can't destroy. We have to keep it. And I've got some records over there too, not to near the extent that she does. But like all my books and stuff here, as well as some
But
stuff.
when Al and I were talking, we were even suggesting we'll dedicate a locker room for district clerk, county clerk, elections, and so forth.
Auditors.
Just so long as I have some climate control area.
Sure, no.
Just remind me.
Yep.
That's just a fabric tube. That's all it is.
Because you've got to have, I know from the stores that I've been in over at the other building, the treasurer, the auditor, the district attorney, the county clerk, they all have storage, the judge's office, they all have storage over in this building. So if that building goes away, then
Yeah, where's it going?
Yeah, essentially, the old jail part where all the storage is, essentially couldn't go away until the new storage building was built.
is it advantageous, just throwing this out here, to keep that building for storage?
Not really.
Parts of it?
bad shape.
Yeah, for how long? What's the future? Tell me what the future.
I'm just saying till you get past one
Tell me
hurdle,
what that is.
7 years from now.
No.
It wouldn't last 7 years.
But you can get climate controlled storage lockers over at the fairgrounds. It's a monthly rental, but you can get climate controlled over there if we had to, for a period of time.
But for that period of time, we could stay where we are and.
You'd have access.
For the public,
I'm sorry?
for the public,
Well, no, but you'd have to get the manuals, bring them back to your office, or have someone retrieve them.
Or have somebody go over there with us.
So right now you have public viewing of your records, is that what you're saying?
yes, ma'am.
And she has public viewing of her record.
Yes.
So I don't know how big a museum you have to have. I mean, I don't know how big that building is, but it would be worth it to look at and see if it could be sectioned off in some way.
What building are you talking about? County clerk? Well, I mean, that's an option. If you guys want to use that for storage, that is fine.
I mean, if you have books that have to be viewed.
Is, is this whole building, because you have four departments you're moving over here? The adult probation, road and bridge, 911, and voters storage. And we have 5 plus this courtroom. Is there not?
Yeah, but you don't have adult probation. You have adult probation in a building twice this size.
And they utilize all of it?
All of it.
Okay.
I thought that building was kind of overkill, I thought, when we first looked at that building. What is the size that you're using? Is it 2,800 square feet? Is it
Yes.
3,000 square feet?
It's close to 2,800 square feet.
Well, we're just definitely gonna have to do evaluations and see what we can do.
Because I know that
Because as
some of
far
those
as part of the
large
renovations, we can also
offices.
be building storage
Yeah, I mean, there's
units
room
and
for
figure out
that.
how we wanna handle all that when the time comes.
Because y'all used to keep in mind, they used to be in the building you're in.
Oh, and keep in mind, that was one of the reasons they moved out.
Keep in mind, they moved out because it was raining on their head.
And it wasn't ADA compliant in the stretcher.
Well, I mean, you gotta think about this too. If we're building this courtroom, I've said in here many times, and I think several in here, that we're gonna have court every day. And that's processing more offenders through the system. And that's expanding the system, and I'm speaking about probation.
Yep.
So their facilities that they're in now may be okay, but you start adding a bunch of extra.
Probation officers.
Well, I'll ask this question. Have we consulted with the district judges and seeing, I've heard some talk in the past that they love where they are in Navasota, the adult probation.
I liked it, yes. It was a mile from my house.
Okay, well, I'm saying the response from the offenders is a little bit better or improved because that's where most of the population is, and they respond, they can catch a ride, they can thumb, they can walk to the building. I want us to keep in mind, we have a building in Navasota that you and I have looked at, and that at over where the old annex used to be. That building is still sitting there. It belongs to the county. At this time, it's unused. Demolishing, we talked about it a couple of years ago, last year as a matter of fact, demolishing a wing of it for the hospital wanted more parking space. And then you had that wing that wasn't in terrible, terrible, terrible shape.
The whole board.
Yeah. And at that time, when we looked at redoing that building over there, it was something like 500 and some thousand. That was totally redoing the whole building. So if you're taking down half and you're renovating the other half, you may be able to keep adult probation in Navasota. It belongs to the county. We talk about hard assets and keeping them up. And it has a reversionary clause to that kind of restricts what we can do with the building. As long as the hospital stays there, it's good. But we can't just go in there and destroy the building, John C. is looking into that and trying to find family members that gave that building to the county with clauses. But you have that building is where I'm going with that, and it may be worth just having them come in and look again and say, well, what would it cost to redo this complete wing and keep adult probation in Navasota?
Then that would give you this half of the building for other
Right.
stuff.
Well, I mean,
But just that conversation with adult probation, the
Well, we'd have to
judges.
get with Chris and Hunter of Walker County.
Yes,
Well, and if you did that, half of this building could be used as storage until this building is built over there for maintenance and storage.
I mean, I'd like to remind people that there was a reason that the current annex, that juvenile probation, extension office, our offices, JP's office moved out of that building. It's because it was so dilapidated, and since that time, it was mold, had enough mold in there that it was a health hazard, and to remediate just the mold problem was, I'll refresh my memory, $500,000 roughly.
Yes.
that was the whole building. You're talking a two-wing building,
You're still gonna have to remediate it for mold, and it's still.
not necessarily on that side. You're talking about two different sides. Where the judge's office was, I was in that building. Where the judge's office was, that wing was the wing that had all of the problems. Adult probation juvenile probation to the back had already did some renovations. That's the side I'm saying could go away. The other side moved because the health department moved the services to another facility in town. It wasn't because of mold on that side. It was because they wanted to move their facilities. But when we looked at it, we did have the mold people look at it, but that cost was the entire little campus there. So if one wing goes away, that's why I say it would be worth talking to them and maybe coming back and get a price change, because we know things go up and they escalate in price. But that was that, I'm talking about where the health department was, not the side where the judges were.
Well, I think we need to actually have an evaluation of what we've got,
Right.
where we can go. I mean, that's gonna be.
That could be part of the process, that's all I'm
That's gonna be a
saying.
different situation.
I mean,
There's options.
Yeah, like I said, we need to actually do a study, and have a study on where,
But this is the
space
time we're
needed.
talking about it, so we're talking about it. But like I said, we still have hard assets in Navasota that's sitting there. It could be storage if nothing else.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. We can get people out there, I mean,
He has the report, and it talked about
I do.
where the mold was, where the asbestos was,
yeah, I do.
and that kind of. And when we say morgue, the morgue is a closet underneath there. It's not a humongous. It's not It's not the length of the building. It's just a small, like little section of it.
That's probably what it's at.
Well, I won't tell you my experience, but
Any
I didn't have one.
other,
I'm just kidding.
any other ideas or thoughts on current facilities, future facilities?
And it might be worth talking to the hospital to see how bad of a need they have for parking and how forthcoming they would be on funding a project like a parking lot, which could be in turn used by both buildings.
You haven't got to share much, Mr. Walker. You have any thoughts?
I'm trying to stay out of the crossfire.
Okay.
He could actually be included with Chad and Al.
Yeah, when we get to the point of, evaluating this building, I would like to be involved in that process. If y'all wanna have, a separate building committee, look at all the facilities and talk about what's coming down the road, I'd be glad to be part of that. trying to stay out of the new building, because that's not my area of expertise. You have plenty enough opinions on what ought to happen over there already.
Okay.
But I mean, throw my 2 cents in, I can.
May I ask you what size building you're building and the height? How many square feet?
It's about 5,400 square feet.
Mhm.
It'll be, I want to say it's 24 foot eve height.
24 feet,
Yes,
24
yeah.
foot eve?
It's tall enough that you've got full height storage above the offices.
Mhm.
I think the sidewall height is 9 feet on that storage area.
Mhm. Okay. That kind of gives it, I know that you're in the bidding process,
Yes.
and it kind of gives us an
We're
idea.
open bids this afternoon.
Now, the whole building is not air conditioned, but portions of
The
it.
office space, yes.
Anything else?
No, sir, just appreciate the workshop to where we can, and I think there should be more. That's where I was going yesterday. If we're gonna go down this road, we're gonna have to meet more so that we don't have three weeks.
So you're not necessarily looking for scheduled commissioners court meetings, but you're looking for opportunities for workshops and
For
things like that?
more communication, more thought processes,
Sounds-
so we don't see,
Well, 3 weeks only happens, what, twice a year?
I don't know, but, so we don't have that many documents to read in one weekend to where we can't give it full
I think that
attention.
only happens about twice a year.
Yeah, I know it's the end of the year, and we had a lot of documents to look at because of the end of the year, but at the same time, let's keep the momentum going. I mean, we're working, we can come once a week and look at things we need to look at.
We can come 5 days a week. We just need the courtroom space available.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna move to agenda item number, I'm sorry? Yes.
One comment, you guys expressed a little concern with the vendors or the companies accessing the files online. I've received about 20 or so different emails from different companies, and there's not been a single concern. When I emailed out the first addendum, I got thank yous, and so I've not gotten a single concern as far as obtaining that file, so I just wanted to.
Are you able to access the file?
Yes, I downloaded it onto my computer.
The drawing,
Mary's got them up right now. So it's just, maybe it's an IT thing on some computers that we need to fix, but from the contractors, maybe they're up to snuff on what they need, but I hadn't had a single concern.
Well, I was thinking that may be a way for you to see is through their access point.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
We'll go to agenda item number 2. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion before the court. Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Dobianski. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.